Jon Wilner, when we need information, insight on the West Coast, well, really, it could be in like Connecticut, but at the same time, we've leaned on Jon quite a bit. Doesn't mean we always agree with each other, but we've really become very close, and we appreciate Jon, the Wilner Hotline, for joining us. And, man, there's so much that goes on. So what's going on at Cal, man?
Oh, well, there's some donors who are a little bit unhappy with the way the football program is being operated, and they're threatening to withhold some NIL money until there's a change. They want Ron Rivera, who is a Cal alum, one of the greatest players in Cal history, two-time NFL Coach of the Year. Cal just brought him in to be their GM, football GM, and these donors want Rivera to have some real authority, and they are threatening to withhold NIL donations until he's given authority. I think he already has it. I think this is much ado about nothing, to be honest with you. He's reporting to the university chancellor. That's a lot of authority. So they're looking across the bay and seeing that Andrew Luck is technically in charge of Stanford football, and they want Rivera to be technically in charge of Cal football. Justin Wilcox is still reporting the athletic director. But I think Rivera's got plenty of influence to get stuff done. He has the chancellor's ear. My guess is this will kind of go away over time.
Craig, repeat to Jon what you said when we brought up Ron Rivera, that this would be the hill they would die on or something.
No, I mean, I understand there's the connection there, Jon, but I just don't know that, having Ron Rivera have all football say is what I would be wanting if I was a fan based on just what we saw from him the last several years in the NFL. He's a good coach. I know he's a legend there, but I don't think he's like this football genius that deserves to have all authority over Cal football. That's just my perspective on it.
Well, he's not going to call the plays. He's he's going to be there to advise the staff. His main role is basically to generate money for revenue sharing and NIL, because he is very popular with the Cal community, with the big donors, with the alums. And so he has much more of a big picture role than hands-on operational control of what's going on with the football program.
So Jon, is there a risk of alienating the donors who don't care one way or the other and just want Cal to be good at things, like causing a rift inside the money people?
I don't think so. The athletic director, Jim Knowlton, is not very popular with the Cal football community, and some of that traces back to the COVID era, and that Cal basically was playing under different rules than a lot of other schools, especially in 2021. And Knowlton took a lot of blame for that, but he's got a contract for 3 or 4 more years, so he's not going anywhere. The Rivera hire, a lot of the detail was Wilcox going to report to Rivera or to Knowlton? Was Rivera going to report directly to the chancellor or to Knowlton? And eventually they worked it out so that he reports to the chancellor. But I don't think they're at risk of alienating anybody, because all the Cal fans are in favor of having Rivera heavily involved in the general aspects of the program, fundraising, community outreach, all that kind of thing.
Is he beloved by? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yes, he is.
It almost feels. I'm sorry.
And he understands Cal, right? Some of the schools are a little different, and he gets the Cal dynamic and the impact of the academic side and the influence of the faculty, the importance of having 30 sports sponsored by the university. He gets all that. And so in a lot of ways, I think he is the ideal person for this role, because again, a lot of what he's going to be doing is stuff with the community and stuff across campus, not, calling plays.
So what influence do they want him to have then?
They want him to raise money.
So that's all they want, is just want the fans that are threatening to withhold their money just want him to have more power raising money?
To be your best requires commitment, dedication, and intensity. It's what defines elite athletes and inspires Airwave to find new ways to optimize your performance. Introducing Airwave Recovery, a mouthpiece designed to work while you sleep to further unlock your potential. Airwave Recovery features our patented reflex technology, small, integrated bumps uniquely positioned to activate your tongue's natural response. Your tongue will instinctively move forward, opening your airway and improving your quality of sleep. And thanks to our patented fitting material and a purpose-designed support wall, you'll enjoy a secure, comfortable fit all night long. With Airwave Recovery, you sleep better and recharge faster. Airwave Recovery, recharge your potential.
Or what do they want exactly in terms of his authority?
They want him to have authority over football, like Andrew Luck does at Stanford.
Right.
And he does not, because Justin Wilcox still reports to the athletic director. That's their issue. They want Rivera to have more authority because they trust him to do what's right for football much more than they trust the athletic director.
Okay. All that being said, Andrew Luck's had this job for half an hour. Like time-wise, it's not been there that long. Now, look, he's super intelligent. I'm sure he's going to be super successful. But if you're basing it on what's going on in Stanford right now, I wouldn't want anybody to have the job that Andrew Luck has right now.
Yeah, tough situation. Troy Taylor had been investigated twice for inappropriate conduct towards female staffers before Luck took the job at the end of November. And Stanford by that point had made the decision they were going to stick with Taylor for next season. And then the ESPN report broke, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that caused Stanford at Luck to have to reconsider. There's no athletic director. The AD, Bernard Muir, stepped down at the end of February. They have an interim, but Luck is basically the face of Stanford football and Stanford athletics at this point. He is in charge of Stanford football. He reports directly to the president. And as he has admitted, he's new to this, right? So I think that the reason they went out and hired Frank Reich to be the interim for next season is because they kind of need to step back and figure out what does Stanford want to be in this new era. And that will help them figure out what type of head coach they want.
So is that the same for Cal then, as if you put Ron Rivera in charge of fundraising, whether you want a Justin Wilcox or somebody else or, whatever, like this is the same kind of thing for them?
I think it is similar. It's just not the direct line of reporting is different because Reich will report to Luck and Luck will report to the president. At Cal, Justin Wilcox reports to the AD, and the AD reports up to the chancellor. So it's a little bit different, but Rivera is going to have a lot of say in the big picture elements of Cal football and in the money, raising money and to support NIL and the revenue sharing.
John, I thought Cal didn't care about football.
Some people care, and the new chancellor cares. And that's, I've talked to the new chancellor a couple of times, and he gets it. I always look, when you talk to a president or chancellor, the tell for me is, do they talk about sports in the language of a chemist or a psychology, someone with a doctorate in psychology, or do they talk about sports in the language of an athletic director? And Cal's chancellor talks about sports in the language of an athletic director. He was in the stands for the play in 1982. He understands that football can be the front porch for the university and the best marketing tool possible. The ESPN game day, the morning of the Miami game, he will point to that as proof of what football can do. I mean, you're not getting thousands of people at 6 a.m. to stand outside of Cal's engineering building for a lecture that day. So he gets it. And I think that gives Cal a little bit of hope here in this new era because for Cal, for everybody, it starts at the top. You got to have alignment between your president, your AD, and your football coach.
So how does Stanford have that now when they have a new president and no AD and a football coach who's not going to be there?
Well, I think that the fact that the president went out and hired Andrew Luck and put him in charge of football suggests that he cares. This new president cares about football as well. He also went to Stanford. He's just like Cal's chancellor attended Cal as an undergrad. Stanford's president attended Stanford. I think hiring Luck to me was a good sign if you're a Stanford fan and you're worried that they can only take transfers from the Ivy League and they don't have an NIL game. I think that they are going to make a commitment to be competitive. Is it going to be enough to, compete with Clemson and then, Florida State and all them? I don't know, but I think that they've got a fighting chance now with the new leadership on both sides of the Bay, actually.
John, in terms of investments and things like that, a team out west making a lot of noise is Sacramento State with some of their hires and just their big picture, I guess, outlook. What can you explain to us about, what they're doing right now and the long-term goals? Is this them trying to get into the Pac-1? Like, what is this, and what do you make of it as somebody who's seen that program or that university a lot closer than we have over the years?
They certainly have got a good PR game. They went public in the fall that they had $50 million pledged in NIL, and a certain NFL reporter on ESPN took that to mean they had $50 million guaranteed. But they're being aggressive, and I think that program's got some potential at the FBS level. I don't think the Pac-12 is interested in them, certainly not as a first or second choice. But they see the light that major college football can do a lot for your university. It's interesting, though, because, the SEC and the Big Ten have made it clear they don't want more schools in the FBS. And they raised the entry fee as to try to tamp down interest. But Sac State's going to do whatever it takes to play with the big boys. I could see them maybe being a Mountain West school over time, probably not Pac-12, but we'll see how it goes. It's very interesting.
Yeah, they've been aggressive, and that's really the word that was used in the reporting is how aggressive they are.
And they got a pretty good market, right? Sacramento's number 20 market. There's a lot of players there, and they made a smart hire. Brennan Marion, who was the offensive coordinator at UNLV, he is a very sharp young head coach.
Absolutely, he was at UNLV prior to that, right? With oh my God, the coach is now at Purdue. Barry Odom, I think it was.
Yeah. The go-go offense. Marion was a very smart hire by them, connects with the kids, very aggressive in the community. So they're doing everything right. I don't know where they're going to end up, but I've been impressed so far.
John, we were bringing this up. We had theathletic.com had a story based on like 10, 12 different categories, from the ones you would think, stadium capacity, sales, et cetera, merchandise, but other parts. Is Oregon, they've been relevant and obviously popular, but do they take any heat on the West or in the Pacific time zone for being glitz and glamour but no meat and bones?
They certainly take heat in Seattle on that front. They certainly take heat there in Seattle. And from USC fans too, right? They're kind of the Johnny-come-lately. Now, in fairness to them, right, they made the BCS championship game and lost to Auburn, and they made the CFP in the first year, lost to Ohio State in the championship, made it this year. They've been very good, but they don't have a national championship, and they've kind of missed out on the big stage a few times. So they're pretty well respected, though. I think a lot of people out here, college football people, respect the commitment. Oregon has been all in to win in football for many years. Now, some of that is driven by the desire to get a championship for Phil Knight, who is, I think he's 86. But the commitment to winning is respected. But they do take some heat for not having a title, given everything they've put into the program to this point over the last, 20 years. They hired Chip Kelly 2007, I think it was. So, they've been doing it, but they have so far been a little bit short.
Yeah, I think they're the West Coast Texas A&M. Like, they have all the money and the facilities and the history, but they just don't have like the national title. So if you want to be in all these top 10 lists, that's great. But then when it gets to like the all-time greatest programs, it's like, no, you're not in that club. Like, you can be in a lot of the other clubs, but you're not in those clubs.
You're not.
The blue blood club. Yeah.
And Washington holds that over them. Washington fans hold that over them, and obviously USC fans do too. But the thing about that A&M comparison is A&M never went to the CFP, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
Oregon's got in the last 15 years 2 playoff and a BCS championship, so appearance. So that's pretty good, you know. And a bunch of top 10 finishes, a bunch of Rose Bowl wins. It's pretty good. A&M, almost a poor man's Oregon, and Oregon's a poor man's USC, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, they just need that natty to just cement everything. That's just the one thing that's missing.
And if they get that natty, you are going to hear about it. That giant duck is going to be in your studio holding that natty. They're going to make sure everybody knows it.
Well, we will welcome him. Jon, man, it seems like you probably have more to cover, but in a good way and a bad way, like with just all of the fracturing that's happened, because you can talk about all these multiple conferences now, and that's also probably a detriment at times. But when it comes to the West Coast, where are your eyes kind of as far as the big off-season topics? I guess continuing realignments, right? The Pac-12 and what they're still trying to do. Just sort of if you were to set the table for us non-Westerners, kind of what's the big items on the menu you feel like over the coming months?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great for content, not great for my sleep. But I'll take that trade. So, to be honest, everybody's waiting for Monday. I mean, the House case is got everyone, not only on the West Coast, but across the country, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. I think once we get past that, whether she actually approves on Monday or in the coming weeks, I think that's going to add a lot of clarity. The Pac-12 and the Mountain West are both trying to get media rights deals done, and they both have lawsuits going on. So at the sub-Power 4 level, there's still a lot of realignment. In terms of the West Coast schools that are in the, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, a lot of it, I don't see any huge issues hanging over everyone. Most of it is just trying to muster your resources to get ready for revenue share and allocating your cash, how you're going to do it. I think that they're all going to kind of take the lead from the conference offices, but they may do it a little bit differently. But that's what it's all about right now for these next few months out here.
How weird was it seeing Oregon, Arizona, playing in March, and it's there's no PAC affiliation.
Yeah.
And it's, that had to be strange.
It was strange. I mean, I was glad that they got that matchup because, it was a good game and that's a good rivalry. And those two schools should figure out a way to play a non-conference game every year, frankly. It was strange. The biggest thing that was different this year, it wasn't just not having the Pac-12, to be honest. It was not having Bill Walton, right? Yeah. I mean, that really, he was the face and voice and humanity of college basketball in the West, and not just the UCLA or the Pac-12 schools, but Gonzaga too. I mean, everybody Walton was it, and him not being around this basketball season, there was a big void, to be honest, in the culture of college basketball out West without him around.
Yeah, there was. Who was the guy that did the games with him?
Dave Pasch.
God, he would every once in a while put up a tweet of something Walton had said or whatever, even an old tweet. It would just make you go, damn, he's gone.
I've never seen anybody who was more beloved than Bill Walton. Mm. I mean, it was unbelievable. After he passed, Twitter was incredible. Days and days of people telling stories about seeing Walton in a grocery store, and just the way he made everybody feel so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I would have loved to run into him in a Ralph's and just been like, "Hey, what do you think about broccoli?" And then just let him go. Oh, that would have been the best. That would have been the best day of my life.
2 hours later, you would have gotten out of that Ralph's.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
The first time I ever spoke to Bill on the phone, I said, "Hi, Bill. It's Jon Wilner. And then I was literally silent for 25 minutes and didn't even ask a question. He just said hello and just started going for 25 consecutive minutes. It was unbelievable.
Have you seen the trees that's on the side of the Rocky Mountains?
Oh, my gosh. Have you seen Joan Baez at the Greek Theater in Berkeley?
John, thank you. By the way, on that house settlement, I was bringing this up earlier. I really have missed the boat on exactly what might happen in the end. I thought it would be a lot more clarity, and there will be on specifics, but there's just so much still out there, isn't there?
Well, the Title IX issue is going to, and there's still the other lawsuit going on in Colorado. So it's going to provide a little bit of clarity, but we're still a long way. I kind of phrased it as it's not the beginning of the end. It's that Churchill phrase. It's not the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning for college sports, right? We still got a long way to go. These next 6-8 years are going to make the past 5 years seem like amateur hour, but the house is an important piece to kind of getting to the end of the road here.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you jumping in with us today. Have a
All
great
right, guys.
weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Jon Wilner, the Wilner Hotline, with us on the